Jack Thorne again for the Movie Cellar Month of Horrors. Terrors Through Time. I do love that title, Dan. So I am on the 1950s now, and I have chosen for my film the 1957 classic Night of the Demon, also known as Curse of the Demon, directed by Jacques Tourneur from 1957. Jacques Tourneur, of course, was the amazing director from the 40s and 50s. Did a lot of horror and just very unique horror, and did some noir. He was versatile and did a lot of great stuff. Starring Dana Andrews, the great Dana Andrews, who became a legend in noir. Peggy Cummins from the film Gun Crazy, and Neil McInnes, who played the Martin Luther in the Martin Luther film from 1953. So that was kind of their other stuff that they did other than this movie. But anyway, we'll get more into that later. So let me just get right into the plot. So, Night of the Demon. So in the south of England, there is a Professor Harrington who is talking to his rival, Dr. Julian Carswell, and he goes to his mansion to beg him to please call off the curse that he has put on him, because he believes he's had a curse put on him. So he says, if you take this curse off of me, I will stop my investigation into your satanic cult. So that's what we know about Carswell right away. So he says, okay, well, yeah, I want to help you. He says, well, did you have the parchment? And he says, no, it burned. I don't have it anymore. And he goes, okay, well, don't worry about it. I'll do what I can to help you, and good luck. And so this guy, Harrington, drives home, and he gets out of his car, and he looks into the forest next to his home, and there is a demon literally walking like in smoke and fire, and it looks almost like the Balrog from Lord of the Rings. And it comes and after him, and so he tries to get away. He tries to drive his car again. He smashes into a telephone pole, or he backs into a telephone pole, and then he tries to get out of the car, and the telephone pole has fallen, and he falls into the wires and gets electrocuted, and then the demon pounces on him. So from that point, his American colleague that was coming over to actually attend a convention with him, Dr. John Holden, who is played by Dana Andrews, he arrives, and he finds out that Harrington has died, and he finds out that the only link between the cult and Harrington's death is a guy named Rand Hobart, who is the suspect, but he's fallen into being catatonic. So they're waiting for him to wake up so they can question him. Harrington's colleagues, they think that there might be a possibility of supernatural forces, which Holden rejects as ridiculous. So he meets Carswell at the British Museum, and there's a book he's looking for, a rare book, and it's missing. And Carswell says, I have a copy at my own mansion, so you can just come and look at that one. Later on at Harrington's funeral, Holden meets his niece Joanna, played by Peggy Cummins, and she gives him her father's diary. And it talks about his fear of Carswell's power and this cult, and what he was afraid of. And Holden still doesn't believe it. He thinks that there's got to be some kind of trickery going on. But he likes Joanna, so he goes with her to Carswell's mansion the next day, and he starts talking to Carswell, and he says, well, what could you do to prove to me that witchcraft is real? And so Carswell, looks up, and, this huge windstorm starts, and wind blowing really hard, like hurricane winds, in a matter of seconds. And he just smiles, and so Holden laughs, and he says, well, predicting when the wind's going to blow isn't exactly what I had in mind. So, he's still unconvinced. Um, but so, sorry, he mocks him. He basically, disses him. And Carswell says, well, you're going to die in 3 days. And so Holden just, laughs. And so he goes back to Harrington's colleagues again, and they're talking about Carswell and how they're going to examine this Rand Hobart guy when he wakes up. And Holden goes to dinner with Joanna, the niece, and they look at the diary, and it talks about a parchment with runic writing on it that he found, that he said was passed to him by Carswell. And Holden finds the exact same parchment with the runic writing in his pocket that Carswell passed to him at the library, apparently. So he's just kind of mildly amused at first, but when he starts hearing this story, he starts getting a little more concerned. But then this really strong wind comes up again, like another hurricane wind, and it blows the parchment out of his hand right towards the fireplace. And there's a screen, luckily, over the fireplace so the parchment does not burn. Because apparently once the parchment burns, that's the deal breaker, and that's when the demon cannot be called off, I guess. So, anyway, so Holden gets back the parchment and puts it away. So they finally go to Hobart's family to ask for permission to hypnotize him to get to find out what happened. And they say the mother, and these are like almost like gypsies or something, like they seem like kind of nomadic people, and they're like really old school. And she says, okay, well, you can do it, but you got to remember that this family is true believers. And while Holden starts leaving, and the parchment gets blown out of his hand, and the mother sees it, and she her sons and stuff all get up, and she's like, no, he has been chosen, do nothing to help him, and they're saying, just go, and so he decides to go to, when he looks at the runes, he's reminded of something, so he goes to Stonehenge, and he looks at the runes on the stones at Stonehenge, and it's the same writing. So he and Joanna go to a seance that they're actually invited to by Carswell's mother, who's, she's great. It's funny. She tries to help her son, but she actually winds up helping Holden more. So this medium guy who's channeling, he channels Harrington, apparently, who tells them that Carswell has the key to reading the runes in his copy of the rare book that Dan Andrews was looking for before, or Holden. So Holden takes off, and he's like, this is ridiculous, I'm not sitting through this. And so Joanna says, well, I'm going to keep searching for the key. And so they go to Carswell's mansion. Holden he breaks into the house as she waits, and he gets attacked by a cat in the dark, and in the dark it looks, and it's all of a sudden this cat is turned into a leopard, and he's being attacked by a leopard, and then all of a sudden Carswell walks in, flips the light up, and it's a cat again. And so Carswell's playing games, and so but he goes in and he says that he knew that Holden was going to show up. And so Holden starts trying to take off, and he says, whatever you do, don't go through the woods. And so, of course, Holden goes right through the woods, and he gets chased by this ball of smoke and fire that looks like the demon is coming after him again. So he just hauls ass through the forest and barely gets away from it. Anyway, They finally get the guy Hobart under hypnosis, and he tells him that he tells Holden that he also was chosen to die, and he was given this runic parchment that was passed to him, but he avoided it by passing it back to the same guy that gave it to him. And so when Holden shows him the parchment that he got from Carswell, Hobart freaks out and he thinks that he's trying to give it to him, and he just goes nuts, and he's like, get away, get away, get away. And like Dan Andrews like going, what? I'm not trying to hurt you or anything. And he jumps out the window. And so there goes Hobart. Anyway, as we come to the end, Holden learns that Carswell is now on a train he's getting on a train to Southampton. So he gets on the train and he finds out that he has also kidnapped and hypnotized Joanna. And so he's got her. And now Holden's death, his predicted death, is getting closer and closer and closer. And we are just about at his hour. And the train stops at the next station, and Carswell tries to get away from him. But he manages to sneak the parchment back into Carswell's coat. And when Carswell finds it away from the train, it flies out of his hand. He tries to run after it, and it burns up. And all of a sudden, there's a train coming for him. But the other side, the demon is coming for him. So he basically chooses the train, and he gets run over. But the demon attacks him again. And when his corpse is found by the police, they think that he was just struck and dragged by the train. And this time, Holden, who was the first one to jump in to say, no, there's no way, he doesn't even bother going to inspect the body, and he just leaves with Joanna. So that is the end of the film. This film is incredible. So the screenwriter, Charles Bennett, he owned the rights to the original story, and it was bought by this guy named Hal Chester. The original story, so Hal Chester was like this just Hollywood producer guy who used to be an actor. And it was for the story Casting the Runes, which is by M.R. James. And M.R. James was probably the best ghost story writer ever. And so when Chester took over the project and they got Tourneur to direct, and they got the cast, they got Dana Andrews and everything, but Chester did not like Bennett's original script. He thought it was too tame and too British, and so he wanted to spice it up again. So he hired a blacklisted writer, Cy Enfield, to come in and doctor everything up. And Cy Enfield never got credit for it because he was blacklisted. So it's still under Bennett's credit. Anyway, Tourneur got brought in, and he was always at odds with Chester about how to produce the film. About the wind scene, Tourneur tried to convince Chester that he needed 2 airplane engines, and Chester was saying, no, you just need a couple of electric fans. And so when Dana Andrews found out that, he was trying to oversimplify everything and not let Tourneur do his job, he stepped in. He said, look, you either let this guy do his job and direct, or I'm walking. So Chester did not bother the production after that directly, but he definitely doctored things from the production end. The other thing that they fought over was the ending, or not the ending, but the showing of the demon. Jacques Tourneur did not think that they should show the demon at all. He only thought they should hint at it, and that it should never be fully established that this demon is real. And because he wanted to show the power of being a true believer and what that can do, even if there is no demon at all. All you need is people who believe that there's a demon. So, anyway, yeah, I mean, this is another classic. I mean, this film is, it's 100, I think it's rated 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and yeah, it's, Jacques Tourneur was such an amazing type of filmmaker and so different for his time and for that time. And so this really just comes across as something very original for the time. And it's a treasure. It is definitely a treasure. Again, I will give it 4.5 out of 5 stars, or rather a 9 out of 10, only because when they show the demon up close, it does look kind of stupid. So, in that respect, Tourneur was absolutely correct. But when it's far away, it actually looks kind of scary. Which leads me to, is the movie scary? It's scarier than the 30s and 40s, but it's still got that suspension of disbelief, and you know, it's special effects from the 50s, so you get taken out of it a little bit by that. So I'll give it a 9 out of 10 for that reason. But I will also say, is it a good Halloween movie? I mean, it's definitely freaky and you know, gives you the chills, but I can't say that it's a Halloween movie per se, like a Child's Play or Halloween. But I will watch it because I love those kind of films. Anyway, that's it for me. Jack Thorne again from Los Angeles. Hope you guys are enjoying the month. And back to Month of Horrors, Terrors Through Time. All right, and The Movie Cellar. Thanks a lot. See you later.